Hello friends, this is Jane from ViolinTeachingResources.com, and today I'd like to show you how I use Google Documents to create and share student assignment pages. So it all starts here on Google Calendar, where I have my full weekly schedule planned out, and this repeats each week so that I can always open up and see whose lesson is coming up next. I'm going to be working with a student named Thomas, who's over here at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. I have put a link to his lesson notes right here in my calendar for his lesson date. And here is the link to his lesson notes document. And it's also open here as a tab on my browser. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that there. So I've set up this lesson note-taking format for a beginning student. So for beginners, I often like them to put a check mark that they have finished their assignments. And so I have columns for 5 days of the week for practicing, and I'd like them to put a little check mark in the box when they do their assignment. For the students that are really savvy, sometimes they'll put they like to put emojis in there. Like that. So Thomas is a beginner, and I've got week 3 showing here of his notes. So each week I copy paste the previous week's notes, and that saves me a lot of time typing things in. I'm going to scroll down to the beginning. So say this is week 1 of the lesson year, starting in early September. So the parts of the assignment sheet you see are the check offs for 5 days of practice that he's done the assignments I've asked. I've got boxes for different categories of the time he's spending in his practice. So I have setup and warm up. I have exercises. I have pieces, theory, and notes. And down at the bottom, I have a practice log, and I've written down his weekly practice goal. Now, once I've set up this document, I share it with the parent to their email, and that way they can open this practice log and they can go in and they can write how many minutes he's practiced each day, or if he hasn't. And when they get to the end of the week, they can tell me what the total was. 100 minutes, so he's met his goal. Sometimes all I see are the minutes, and I have to put the total in there. And sometimes parents prefer to not use an online access to this document, so I can print this out and give it to the student, and they can punch holes in it and put it in their notebook, and they can write their practice minutes down here. If he's done his practice times, then he can put X's in here. He's done his assignments. So this is his very first lesson, and I just have some basic information on the things that I've showed him at his first lesson, and I want him to do those on his own at home with some help. And so after week 1 is over, I copy paste this and create week 2. First of all, let me show you what's up here in this upper corner though. So for students, if they need to miss a lesson due to illness, either mine or theirs, or if we have snow on the roads and they can't get to their lesson, or their car isn't working, we can do a Zoom lesson. So at the top of the lesson notes, this is in the header section of the Google Doc, I put my Zoom ID, which is blanked out here, and the password, and they know how to go into Zoom and enter my ID and the password, and they will be able to enter a meeting with me at the scheduled time for their normal lesson. I also have a technique goals link, which I'll show you in a little bit, but first we're going to go back to our lesson notes out of the header. So here's week 2. I just changed the date at the top. I keep the week number up because that way I can roll back and forth and refer to which week I assign various things. So let's say that this is our current week, week 3. Get rid of these things. So he's learned a few things so far. He's in my beginner book that I use for most starters, which is Fiddle Time Joggers. And I'm going to show you some ways that it's really great to use this online live active version of their assignment page, because you can put links in it that they can click and get into additional resources for them to use. So the first really great practical application here is if I have some play along audio for them. So many students don't have CD players or even a way to listen to MP3 files actively while they're practicing. So I do rely on the availability of website links that have the audio tracks that they're looking for. So in this case, Fiddle Time Joggers has a web page, and the web page has the audio tracks for each song. So if I click the link as it popped up here, when I click number 4, I click this link, and it's redirecting me to the page and to the audio track, which I'm not going to play out loud, but there's the track for the song. They can play that while they practice. Exit out of there. So each track is its own little play along audio, and they can click those and they can practice with the tracks. Another thing you can do is link to YouTube videos. So I found a cute YouTube video of the history of the violin that's written for kids. Now, one thing I also really like about using Google Documents is it has a way to embed links within text. So I could put this long string of YouTube address right in their notes and create a link. Or I can copy that. I can highlight the words, watch this video. I can click the link button, or I can press Control K, which is the keyboard shortcut, paste the link in there and apply. And now the video is in the words, watch the video, and I don't need this anymore. So I can really keep that nice and clean. So that's a place, the note boxes, where I put things like the previous week I'd written trim your fingernails, or watch this video, or do this worksheet, things like that. Or maybe this is the date of our next recital. So this is his week 3 assignment. He comes for his lesson the following week. Before he arrives for his lesson, I'm going to highlight the whole page. I'm going to copy it by pressing Control C, going to the top, and I'm pressing Control Enter to create a new page above this page. The header is the same because that goes on every single page of the document. I'm going to do Control V to paste. There are all the notes from last week. So if I want him to do an assignment again, I don't have to type it again. I can take the first part of the information if I want to keep that and write something new to do. But I'm also going to change the week number, the week date, or the lesson date. And I'm going to change the color so that I can easily tell that I'm in the correct week for the lesson. Sometimes I'll scroll down below to read something, and then I end up inadvertently writing their new lesson information in their old lesson week notes. So I'm going to make sure I'm back up at the top with this color of header. And here's where I can make any changes that I want to. Often there are numbers for their practice minutes in here. And so when I copy paste, I just delete the numbers and give them blank boxes again to write their practice log. So let's look at the technique goals link. This is a separate document that I set up for each student, and it's to track their progress through the repertoire and the theory and the technique that they need to learn for each level that they're at. So Thomas is a beginner, so he is at level F, or foundation. I'm going to go ahead and click this to open his document. So I have a template to create this document for each student, and I save it as an individual document for them, and I put his name right at the top so that I know that it's his, and that's in a header. And then down below here, I have the list of the pieces he can learn at this level, the scales he will learn, and the etudes he'll be using. And then I can write the pieces as he's learned them, the date when he's finished them. And if he memorizes them, I put an X there because that's part of completing a level, is memorizing some pieces. So this little permanent record is added to each time a student passes a level. They get another page on top. Again, Control Enter creates a new page. I will copy paste my level 1 requirements up here and start filling that in, but I still can roll back and see what he did at foundation level. So back to the lesson notes here. So again, this is the format for a beginner student. So we're going to click over and look at an advanced student layout. Again, I use the same stuff at the top. I've got the week number and the lesson date. I also, at the top, I put the books that they're using, especially if they're in a number of different etude books or solo piece collections. That way I know which books to pull out at the beginning of the lesson. So this is more for me than for the student. So in the advanced student rows, we have a scales row, scales they're working on, the etudes box or row, their repertoire, their theory, and again, some notes. And the practice log, as for the beginner student, is the same. On this advanced student, I've got more links to listen to their repertoire. So this student is working on an audition piece. She needs to learn this excerpt. If I just click it, you can see it's linked to this YouTube, which I won't open, but I can click right to a demonstration performance that I'd like her to listen to. Here is a repertoire piece. She's working on the Vitaly Shakan, and we like the version that Ray Chen plays, so we've linked that so she can listen to it anytime she wants to. Again, every time I copy paste the lesson to the next week, again, I'm highlighting it, Control C to copy, Control Enter to create a new page, up to the new page, Control V to paste, change the week number, change the date, change the highlight color. Now we have her next week. So if she's done with her auditions, then I can say I could take that stuff off. But maybe she's still working on memorizing her scales. So maybe if it's been more than a week since we've referred to that, maybe I make it red to say, really memorize that this week. If I don't get to something, let me see, I'm going to get rid of this audition thing. So I often use this little asterisk if we were going to work on Vivaldi last lesson, but we didn't get to it because we were working on her audition information or audition pieces. So I put a star next to it to say, let's make sure we get to that this week. And then if we've worked on it, then I can get rid of the star. We work on it. I give her some new information for practicing, but maybe we didn't get to the Vitaly Shakan. So I'm going to put a star next to that one. So that's for me to remind me what our priorities need to be for the next lesson. So that's how that is all set up. Now, here's a couple other things I use Google for. I have a practice record for each student. This is from last year. I've whited out most of the student names just for privacy, but here are all the weeks of the lesson year from 2023. So week 1 was the week that started with Monday on 9/11. Week 2 was 9/18. Week 3 was 9/25, and so on. I have the winter break weeks here. That was Christmas, New Year's. And here is the spring break week here, and I've colored those green. So students get a practice pass. They're not required to practice those weeks, but if they do practice, it gives them extra credit. Over here on the far right-hand side, I have their percentages of their practice minutes that they met over the course of the year, and I use that for some goal setting. So I can see immediately which students are doing really well on their practice, 109%, or which are not doing so well, 71%. And it's kind of a way, it's like a grade sheet for their practice time. So that's how I set up this practice record, and this is a Google Sheet as opposed to a Google document. I'm going to go back to the Tuesday lesson. So I've grouped all of my students that have a Tuesday lesson are in a folder called Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, I can go into my studio and I can open this folder and I can immediately see everybody's lesson notes that I'm going to be opening and click on them and quickly get to them. So these are just some ways you can use Google in your own studio to organize students' lesson notes, to share those notes with the students so they can interact with you. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for checking out violinteachingresources.com.